All right. I changed the volume a little on my microphone. Hopefully, it's a bit more balanced. It sounded like I was way too quiet, but anyways, we're here with Edgar, Charmed Groom. 4 minute 4-4, probably my favorite commander of all time. At least in black white, which is one of my favorite color schemes. 4 minute 4-4. When it dies, it comes back as an artifact, poops out some 1/1s, and then it comes back as the 4 minute 4-4. And then all your remaining 1/1s, if any are still around, become 2/2s. So it's pretty cool to just let this do its thing, right? You just cast it for 4 mana, and hopefully they don't exile it. I do notice it does get disproportionately exiled when I play it. That's just anecdotal, I suppose. Having the artifact get blown up is usually not a big deal at all, though. You obviously have to send it to the command zone at that point as well. It doesn't matter what side dies. If the artifact side gets blown up, it has to go to the command zone. You can't just like let it flip back and forth or anything. But that's usually not a big deal because your opponent committed to blowing up an artifact that didn't really do anything too crazy. But what's really nice about him is he buys you a lot of time, and there's a fair amount of people that might even put you on vampires, and you're not playing vampires, or at least I'm not playing vampires, and people might mulligan accordingly. So you have a little bit of advantage there. They might have look for fatal push and cut down just to always sauce your one shot, and if you just don't have any, well so obviously as knowledge is here, this is what we're doing. Oh, I just minimized that. So, because we know the deck card weight stuff, I'm going to keep doing this. This is at roughly 1,000. I don't believe there's any reason to go under 1,000. At least, I don't think there's a difference between 999 and 1,001. Therefore, I don't believe there's a difference between 950 and 1,050. I would assume I'm in the same bracket if I got any lower. So, if it's not a complete bracket system, then I might play people around almost the exact same deck weight, and then as the timer to find people takes longer, your weight up and down probably gets a little bit bigger till you do bump into somebody. So if that's how it works, then yeah, the lower points the better, up until a certain point, because if your deck is 400 points and you're searching people, now it's looking for 3s and 500s and then 2s and 600. You're gonna find the higher end way before you find someone playing a 300 weighted deck. So you're gonna start to hit it has to be a hard floor basically of efficiency in that regard, right? Again, this is not a ranked format, anyways. So that's how this is weighted. With that being said, I'm running all of my favorite combos and nonsense. So we have the Exquisite Blood Sanguine Bond. If ever they lose a life, you gain a life, the game is just over, right? You just loop the life stealing one at a time till they're dead. I have Overwhelming Splendor, because, well, some people can't answer it, and it just wins full stop sometimes. I have Solemnity, and instead of 9 lives, which I think is probably completely unplayable, actually I would attest with certainty that 9 lives is completely unplayable, I'm running Phyrexian Unlife instead. It does the same exact thing, except instead of no counters on 9 lives, this is no poison counters to your face, and you can go to the negatives, right? What's also kind of interesting about this card is you don't lose the game for having less than 0 life, but it doesn't care how you lose life at all. Now, if you're in the negatives, you can't pay any life. So I can't pay life to crack a fetch land if I have -5 health. However, you can still lose life for things like Black Market Connections and Phyrexian Phyrexian Arena. You'll still lose life. I'm not running Arena because of the deck weight point thing, but Black Market Connections is not a 45-point card, which to me is wild. It works out that Necropotence is 45 because I can't pay 1 life if I don't have any life with Phyrexian Unlife. Another thing is, a lot of people don't know this when they swing at me when I have this in play. If I'm at 1 life and you swing for 25 damage, I'll go to negative. Is that negative 23? Because you gotta go to 0, and then yeah, it's either negative 24 or negative 23. Whatever, you know what I mean. I think it's negative 24 because you have to add in the 0 is actually a thing you have to break. You won't die, and you'll be at negative 24 or whatever. And then once it goes to your turn, you're fine. It goes back to your opponent, and then all preceding damage then will be poison. It isn't you go to 0, and all preceding damage, even in the same instance of damage, puts infect on you. If they hit you with a 100 damage lightning bolt, you're at negative 99, and you have no poison. It has to be a separate source of damage. So 5 creatures swinging all happens at the same time, so this won't kill you. It won't kill you, assuming it was a lethal attack and you were in the positives for life. It can't be 0, it has to be 1. If you're at 0, then obviously the poison starts to show up. So that's how that works. So there's a good chance this kind of like pseudo Teferi's protections you kind of for damage in a way, where like one massive thing, like a Crater Hoof turn, where they try to kill you. Now it just won't kill you, right? It just won't kill you if you have this in play, and that's pretty neat. I'm sure it'll surprise quite a few people, especially if we're on a lower deck weight and our opponents aren't maybe as magic savvy. I'm running all the removal worth running for some odd reason. Wrath of God is 45 points, but Day of Judgment is like 9 or something. I don't know why. There's not really any regenerate in the game, and even if there was, there's not much regenerate in the whole of Magic. If we had like every set ever, right? Other than Asceticism would be kind of like the notable card. It's just no people aren't running around playing mono green trolls. It's just really weird. Regenerate's not really a keyword. I don't even know the last time they used it. Was it on the new Thrun? No, the new Thrun's indestructible. I don't think it has Regenerate on the card. I don't know the last time Regenerate was printed on a card, but for some reason it's 45 and this is not. So don't run Wrath of God, just run Wrath of God instead. I don't. Okay. Kaya's Wrath obviously is another good one. Fumigate, Cleansing Nova, just a bunch of board wipes to, not die. No Blood in the Snow, though. I don't think it's super necessary. And again, trying to keep my deck weight kind of low. A bunch of Ramp, so I can maybe reasonably cast a few big things. Like, this is kind of a mana-hungry deck when you're trying to rush out a combo. I do a very good job at buying time. There's certain strategies we're probably weak to, like a bunch of Planeswalkers could be a problem. What is it? The Hero's Downfall on a Stick. Murderous Rider's 45 points, but this is like 9 or something. The 2/3 that Murderous Rider is not really that relevant, so I'm kind of surprised it's weighted so highly, but I guess at this point I'm not really surprised about anything. Like, Black Market's not 45. Alright. Fatal Push is not in here because it is weighted a little bit higher, but when I have so much removal, it doesn't feel as bad. Again, like I said the last probably 2 videos at this point, if your deck is weaker, but you have effectively the same card, just slightly different, but maybe slightly weaker, it's probably not a big deal relative to your opponents trying to play a strategy without any of the strong cards, but there are no, like, poor man's version of that card. There's plenty of poor man's versions of removal. Heartless Act is one of the 2 mana removal spells in black. There's a whole, like, crew of them over here. But for some reason, Heartless Act is at 45 points, and all the others are, like, not. They're not even close. I think they're, like, 27s or something. I don't know why. I think Heartless Act is kind of the same as most of these. You don't, like, almost ever remove counters with it, and sometimes Heartless Act is actually worse, because if the creature does have counters on it, you can't kill it. So I don't really know why Heartless Act is 45. Maybe it was like one of the first ones playable, and it was never updated. That must be the case. I don't believe... It seems as though they're not going back and updating cards, power level-wise. Or even... It also seems like they're not actually even referencing old cards that may have come before. So when a new card that comes out and it's almost the same thing, it could be weighted on whoever was working that day and thought this card was this strong. Or, like, I don't know. It's definitely all over the place. And therefore, you must know what the card weights are card by card. Because two cards that are functionally identical can be on the complete opposite end of the weight spectrum. And that's something that you have to pay attention to. I do have the One Ring and Palantir because card draw is pretty useful when you're trying to, draw combos and stuff. Same with, obviously, all the tutors and whatnot. Athreos is in here because I have a ton of removal, and I can see this as being useful. You could literally run this as your commander instead of this. I mean, honestly, who knows? I might even end up doing that, but as it stands, I just like Edgar more. I think it's just better. I just find this just funny, so I just love this commander, so... the mana base is pretty straightforward. No high-weighted lands. Castle Lockvane. Actually, the black and white castles are some of the better ones, really. I don't even really like the blue one, but those two are pretty good, and the black one is pretty notable. The white one... Oh, actually, now I'm thinking about it, the white one's probably not... It's like 5 mana, make a 1/1, but the black one could actually show up and draw cards. I have seen that one, of all of them, be activated the most. So we could miss out on a little bit of value there, but again, just deck weight. So, yep, that's it. Removal, a bunch of degenerate combos, and hopefully we don't bump into, like, people running, like, 1,000 naturalize effects because we're, like, so low-weighted that, I don't know, the people are running, like, jank, and it ends up backfiring. But, alright, we'll see. Let's do it. Man, do I love apple juice. Or maybe it's just a big jug of bourbon, and you'll never know. That would be kind of insane. Alright, Roxanne. Interesting. Oh, your MMR has a play in it, too, so we could play against some pretty good things. I have all the mana in the world, and surprisingly, without Roxanne getting haste, this is kind of annoying. Though I would say we might be at a bit of a disadvantage having no removal. But we have a lot of decent draws. Let's see if we can't put something on top here. But I won't be too upset if we just get completely trampled. It could just happen. It is a green deck. The One Ring is a... It just feels weird to keep it with this hand, but, like, I also need to play Magic. Yep, of course. Alright, well, I got nothing to do here. Yep, it's just worse. The first game we play, literal worst case scenario. Yep, and they also not only had the 1 mana ramp spell, they also gave Roxanne haste immediately in the next turn, so nothing we do really matters. I can play my commander, but it doesn't really do anything. I think at this point I just have to desperation draw into answers for the board. And I don't think I have time to get a gate, although maybe it was free. I'm not sure, because especially with the treasures. Who knows? Okay, they did miss a turn. That was extremely useful for us. I actually probably did not want to make a 3-2, to be honest with you. Shutting down their commander is also useful, but I think I'm actually going to kill the Llanowar Elves, as my opponent has shown me nothing to do with 3 mana. Or, excuse me, nothing to do with 4 mana, so this is probably pretty useful. Although blowing this up would be useful too, but there's probably a lot of this in the deck, and I don't really know how I feel about blowing up the first one. Okay. Yeah, we... Alright. I think that's the last time I'll make a creature. Kaya's Wrath can be useful. We have a card that shuts down our opponent's commander. I'm going to play this because they could send both of the rocks to face this turn cycle, and that would obviously be really bad for me. So let's not do that. But I'm probably never tapping the One Ring. And again, kind of a reason why I probably wanted to mulligan it. Haha, this is a vampire. It gets the buff of my commander. That's funny. Alright, so we lost Ujin. No surprise there. I can... what can I do here? Whenever an opponent loses life, I gain that much life. So we can actually just swing for a boatload here. I don't know if it's worth it to play... Okay, let's lead with this and just swing, see what happens. $10 points. I will shut down this. Yep, have your treasure, that's fine. I mean, at this point, they're kind of all the mana they'll ever want. And I kind of want to not do anything else. This is fine. I am shields down for my opponent to hit me, but I think that's probably fine. Kind of hope the only thing they do is swing with their commander. Oh, they don't. So they have to blow up my enchantment. No, I think you need to blow up my enchantment. I don't think you should blow that up. Oh, wait. It has haste. It has haste because of the stupid rhythm that I didn't blow up in the start of this game. Yep, that was unfortunate. Let's see, am I swinging for lethal? 15. No, it's only 10. Oh, and they get to cast their commander, too. Well, I highly doubt they're gonna blow up the Ujin token. But it is the only actual target that dies, but they could just send it face anyways. No, I would never risk giving me this card. My opponent correctly does not. Alright, yeah. I probably could have done something a little different here. Am I dead? I'm dead to their damage here. I don't think there's anything I can draw. Wow, I would have won the game. That's insane. I would have won the game just now if they didn't do that. So yeah, I think this is a good game to show that I should have blown this up. Like, yeah, I was kind of anticipating a ton of this effect because they usually run a bunch of them, but they just didn't have one. And it was probably just better to Ujin this. I would have just literally won the game, so that's unfortunate. Oh well. Seems pretty nice. Opponent, fortunately, has no one drop. There's a lot of stuff this deck does, though. There's a lot of stuff this deck does. Including run, like, 10 fetch lands. So we have to suffer through, like, 10 years of deck searching. Is what it is. Oh, they kept it. Look at that. I wonder what it is. Oh, wow. Ramp spell. I wonder how many green cards my opponent will play this game. Relative to the other two colors. So, yeah, not really doing anything next turn, unfortunately. Enters, mill 3, and then a land to your hand. Okay. Oh, they did not mill a land, so I guess they couldn't choose that option. Alright, so far nothing in the graveyard concerns me specifically with reanimating it. Edgar is probably better. Well, no, this lets me Ujin next turn, although I probably won't do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is free if I play Ujin. I guess I might as well just send it on top. Cleansing Nova, again, not super exciting against a deck that wants to reanimate its entire graveyard at the same time. It's just that they don't have anything currently that's, like, spooky. Okay. Mothra, Eerie Ultimatum. Oh, that's just their commander again, but better, I guess. This is actually just... If you could choose to put this in the command zone instead, you just, like, would. It's funny. Alright, so Ujin doesn't... yeah, it kind of does die to an Alpha Strike if I just play it. I don't feel convinced I have to deal with the board, but if I don't, I'm not really doing anything else anyways. I could tutor for... I also just don't know what I'm tutoring for. Let's just sweep the board. The treasure tokens are like a problem that I just don't want to currently continue to deal with. But again, that's all just like moderately temporary. Okay, this can mill over, well, however much they want to mill over. I suppose I will kill it with Ujin. Feels kind of weird, but sure. So, a lot of people get ridiculously greedy with this. Let's see what our opponent does. I've seen people literally die because they couldn't handle not doing this. Did they keep one on top? Oh, no, they didn't. I was about to say, there's no way. I think they actually did. The first Surveil 2 kept a card on top. And then they proceeded to not do that. Okay. You... Suppose I'll represent... it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 mana. Oh, that's pretty good. Haywire Might. Do they use that immediately? Nothing in play is like a big deal to lose, honestly. There's nowhere to go but up with this. Might as well do that first. Just nothing under it. Okay. So, Ujin dies unless I sweep the board. I really don't want to sweep the board. Or it wouldn't even sweep the board, actually. This would die to the... Yeah, alright. I think it's probably better to tutor... I think I need a better final parting pair of cards. Overwhelming Splendor... Oh, wow. They actually just gave up. I would probably here get Overwhelming Splendor. I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea if Overwhelming Splendor shuts down Mutate. This is not an ETB effect. Whenever this creature mutates, return stuff. I don't think I stop Mutate. I'm not even sure if the creature becomes a 1/1 or not, because it was already in play, and then obviously like the state-based, whatever it's called, state-based actions. I don't actually know if the creature becomes a 5/5 when they put this on top with Humiliate in play. I don't, or Overwhelming Splendor. I don't actually know how that works, but everything they reanimate doesn't have any text on it. But they would have like an army of 1/1s that they could successfully get reanimate, and also have a potential 5/5 with Death Touch and Lifelink. Again, I don't actually know how Mutate works with Overwhelming Splendor because it's not a new creature showing up. It's one getting changed. So after Overwhelming Splendor has already been in play. I don't know how that works. It might have happened to me in the past, and I just don't remember. That's also decent, I guess. I don't imagine I need that. I actually don't know what I need here. Palantir is a good one to resolve if anything was going to resolve, so I suppose I'll attempt to resolve that one first. I think it's the strongest one, and obviously has the highest chance of resolving, as they have like 2 mana instead of less than 2 mana. Alright, I'd like to bin this, and probably would like Reanimate. I find it might end up... They just let me... Oh, no. Right. I was about to say they let me draw, but it gives you the drawing animation, but obviously it's not what just happened. Enter the battlefield as a copy of anything. Wait. Artifact or enchantment. Okay. I do not have an answer to that. They did tap out, so I could play my commander. I guess I will. There's probably the best of the options I have is to do that, so... Mortify does not deal with anything. The One Ring is alright, though. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, I don't think I want any of those. If Mortify blew up the Palantir, I'd like it. Is that saw it coming? Wait, what did they just... They plotted enters the battlefield, sorcerer flashback. So they can flashback a card later. Okay. That's interesting. They did mill something that's maybe just worth reanimating, so I just have, like, gas. So I can just, like, continue to pressure my opponent. I think that makes sense. Make it 3-3, that's hard to deal with. Swing for 4. We have a board presence against the mono blue deck, which is obviously really good. Nope, don't want those. I can fire this up and start swinging. Okay. They did not have a land. They've missed a land drop twice, actually. Oh, they get to they get to unsummon the shark back to their hand, and they have a way to block the 3/3. So this is working out pretty nicely for my opponent. At this point, it's probably safe to let them draw because I don't want to die to Palantir. Although, to be fair, they are still looking for lands. When they're scrying lands on top with Palantir... Yeah, see? I just milled 3 lands with the Palantir. Because they're scrying lands on top. And they probably should not be doing that when you're looking for lands. It's like a 4D... It's just a way of thinking. I don't know how to describe it. You probably just don't want to put lands on top. Because when you need lands, I'm going to just... risk milling them. Like you scryed 2 lands on top, I'm just gonna get rid of them. So I can put down 1 piece of the combo, but that doesn't feel too exciting. Do I swing with the 3/3 right now? I don't really have anything else to do. Okay. I think they have an answer to the 1/3, or it could be like an unsummon of some kind. Not really sure what's going on. Another unsummon looks like what's happening, though. Maybe? Unsummoning this is a little weird. Oh, okay, it's not an unsummon at all. Sure. Cleansing Nova, not as useful. I mean, do I want this? Blowing up my opponent's Palantir is not really getting me anywhere. I'd like just spot removal, I think, if anything. They finally found a land. There were 4 lands in a row on the top of my opponent's deck just now. Okay, I can shut that down and then make my opponent miserable, but at this point we're just letting them draw, because there's a chance it could just straight kill us. Yep. Play this. Can I play this too and then the Petrify? Yes. Should I? What else would I be doing? Nothing? Okay. I don't want them to trade, but I have no answer to this. But, I'd want them, if they were going to block with something, block with the 2/2. Petrify does not shut down Archmage. They just take the damage. So whatever this card does right now has to be, like, super, super good. I think I'll take the removal spell. The one that cost mana to, like, explore seems useful as well. So I like this. Opponent's at 7. Instant sorceries draw a card, but they're very low on total land count. So I don't know how much value they could get by spamming spells, really. Because then whatever they draw also has to, you know, be cast. And that could just be a rough prospect. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, if it targets one or more permanents you control, create a token. My opponent scried something on top last turn, and it was not a land with this Palantir. Very strange. Very strange. Opponent draw a card. So at this point, I think I can... Oh, if I kept both of the removal spells, they would have been dead. There's no way to anticipate they would do this, though. A mono blue deck, just like tapping on their own turn, not putting a land in plays. Not what I should have expected, and I did not expect it, so... I will kill this. Yeah, because this is going to block anyways, and it might as well just not get a value block on the 3-3 and get rid of the 3-3. But I don't have a second removal spell. It's probably fine to play one of these. Just don't know. Well, not this one, but I mean like one of these. I could play Escape 4. So 3, one of these two then. I guess Unlife? So I don't get like randomly scammed from something. I just don't know what that could be. I don't know what my opponent could possibly do to like surprise scam me here. You know, making me want to play this. There's no like blue crater hoof. Okay, I also don't know where my opponent is anyways. If you cast an instant or sorcery... Well, the bottom part doesn't matter, but cast an instant or sorcery... Okay. Sure. My opponent took a long time to figure out if they wanted to put it to the command zone. Does that mean some kind of delve card? Guess it was free to put it in the graveyard at that point. Maybe they were thinking about it. If I, like, Mana Tithe the delve card or something weird. Okay, I'm going to play this one and assume Phyrexian Unlife is not going to do anything. It could technically deny my opponent in a funny way. The uncounterable removal spell is actually probably useful. But if I do play this, I can just keep saying lose life to this and put myself at 10 for infect damage. They would never draw off this, but my opponent's hand is full and they're just mana hungry. So I don't think that's worth it. Also, milling cards is still useful for them. Still actually does something. This literally does nothing. This can't block. That can block, but I can kill it. I expect some kind of removal spell. Or oh no, that's it then. That is it. All right, we did it. Unless I accidentally click this and die. Mill 6 and lose 13 life. Yeah. Oh, they didn't even make me risk it. They didn't even like see what I was gonna do. That's funny. But yeah, that's actually kind of a cool thing. It's been a long time since I've seen someone do that. But when they were like hungry for lands, they put lands on top with Palantir. But I'll just mill those lands over, so I know the top 2 cards, because you scry 2, you don't see more than that. Obviously, you can still just randomly draw a land. Okay, let's play that, let's do this, let's do that. A land is probably more important than casting Maze Mind's Tome, when I already have a black market. Probably. Unless it isn't. This grows forever, right? Yep. Alright, so what are we doing this turn? My commander or black market? Probably this. This gets me the juices flowing faster here. I'm feeling good about my current situation. I would love them to cast their commander. That would be actually really, really good for us here. Pretty good chance they do. No, I guess they're all sort of the same at the end of the day anyways, but I don't know if I'm going to sweep the board this turn. Let's see what we draw. Removal and a land. Okay, I'll put this in play, and I think I'll also put this in play. This is fine. This is in the way, and that's just pretty good. They could double Merfolk this turn. Not super likely, though, but it could happen. Yep, no, doesn't look like it will. This is totally fine. This is kind of what we wanted to see, actually. So they have no attack here. Is this a Merfolk itself? Okay, it gets the type. It's not just giving the type. I actually probably don't even cast a board wipe if they do swing. Probably. Don't think I need this. With the treasure, the forced treasure here, I probably don't need that. Okay, I guess that's a slightly better sweeper. I gain a life that way. Edgar dies anyways. Oh, I would love to play this right now. No, I'll get value from it later. I'll get value from that later. Let's just do this. Okay, don't really care about that. There's not really much to reanimate except this, and that could give vampires +1/+1, and that could be pretty neat, but I have board wipes, and that feels counterintuitive when I'm holding Cleansing Nova to do that. Search a library for a thing, and then put it on top. Alright, so they get their best merfolk in the deck. I don't know what the best merfolk is. The one that's indestructible? The 3 mana 3/4 blue one? I don't actually know. I have no idea. Nope, it's not. It's the one that taps stuff and collects evidence. That is really, really, really weird. Okay. This is probably the best merfolk. At least it is early. Alright. I'm not going to cast a removal spell. I guess I'll do these. Sure. So, play this. And then start to cyberbully my opponent's creatures. Let's see what's on top here. I actually don't think I like D-Spark. Might not be a lot of targets for it. When was the beginning of my M step? Alright, N steps when that happens. Gotcha. I guess I'll put it here. Doesn't really matter. And where does that coin counter... Okay, it just comes into my play. This already did its thing. It's just the next, like, 3 merfolk or whatever. Sure. It explores. Sure. Oh, Faithless Agent's actually a really good one, too. I don't see them bin... They binned Faithless Agent? I feel like it's just so free to, like... What? Alright, I'll let them have the 1/1. They have no respect for a removal spell? That is crazy. Alright. I think I can be slow and greedy and take a gate. Just kill this. I am very confused with this attack a little bit. I feel like the 1/1 isn't worth it. Decline. Alright. They did explore that, and they did find a non-land, of course. So just block like that then, it's still just fine. I gotta be careful about the 3/2s this makes. I really don't feel like I should ever make one. I maybe gotta be careful about drawing as well here. I mean, I have a Maze Mind's Tome. I can probably draw a couple times before it's like bad news bears. Speaking of drawing, let's just do it now. The One Ring seems pretty useful. I don't believe I have to cast it right now. I don't think so. I feel like I don't need to. Yeah. Is there anything to reanimate that feels like a good idea? Faceless Agent? Sure. I like the value. Ooh, that was actually a pretty good draw. Actually a really good draw. Just finds the card that wins the game, basically. It's very difficult for merfolk to deal with Overwhelming Splendor, let me tell you. I also didn't have to target this. I could have... You can target your own creatures, right? Yeah, I could have targeted Faceless Agent, so when it dies, it just keeps giving me value. There's a merit to that, maybe. Okay, so they have 3 merfolk again. Do these come in tapped and attacking? They do not. So they could, like, swing with these, get more merfolk, go up to 5, but then they're still, like, hosed to us. Removal spells, sweeper, whatever. That last card probably needs to be a counter spell right now for my opponent. Oh, I mean, it is, right? It is. Counter target artifact or enchantment. They can immediately draw it because they have 3 merfolk. So, I actually cannot just go for it right now. Fair enough. Alright, let's just do a treasure here. Well, we're swinging with lifelink right now, so I guess it offsets the card draw. I know I'm getting, like, ridiculously greedy with it, but that's probably fine. This is fine. I'm probably going to sweep the board. Just gain my 2 life here. Gain my 2 life and deal 4 to them. Okay, sure. They have to draw right now. Wait, no, they don't. They don't have to draw. Nothing died. My opponent's playing it pretty well. I like how they're playing it. Playing it close to the chest. Alright. So we do this. This does not do anything at all to stop it. Just artifacts and enchantment spells. Doesn't cut the cake there. Oh, get your little 1/1, which just dies anyways. It's fine. They can unsummon their commander. They choose not to. Probably a good idea. And yeah, we should have got Faceless Agent here, for sure. I will let my opponent send that counterspell here, because I'd rather them get rid of this card than obviously have it. So I'll just let them send it here. They shouldn't counter this, though. They do not. Wise beyond their years. Maybe they counter this. Maybe they counter this. Maybe they feel like it's kind of the same thing. It draws 2 cards, you know. That's fine. I mean, the Splendor wins the game if it resolves, right? So, can they afford to counter anything but that? Tune in next time. Looks like yes. Alright, they also pick up a Merfolk. I did kind of give them that. But again, actually, you know what? Because of that, I guess it wound up right that I didn't take Faceless Agent, because they would have drawn a card off of it. It would have been a whole bunch of Merfolk. All in one card there. You somehow haven't had the Surveillance yet. Crazy. Alright, so now we're just in Treasure City, because I don't want to die. That would be unfortunate. But this is just a nightmare for them. I don't think putting a counter here does anything, but it's funny. River's Rebuke. Okay, that does not bode too well for me. Alright, well, we get to kill this, and my opponent doesn't really get to do anything after the fact. This is probably the only card in my opponent's deck that, like, continues this game, and I still don't think it's good enough. It really doesn't stop my cards from doing things. It also removed black market connections from play, so it also would have bounced the One Ring, but I didn't get to use the One Ring up front. There's still Merfolk, even with this in play, so they can amass a bunch of random 1/1s with no text, which could maybe be a problem. Could end up being an issue there. You know, I could die to that. Wouldn't be the first time. Alright, nope, they're just not willing to play it out. Okay, so there was an issue where we bumped into a ton of green decks, and I got completely hosed by basically every green deck, almost every green deck, because they could sort of do nothing that I could interact with too well, and then they sort of just run away with the game after they're done ramping, and like if they didn't ramp with a bunch of creatures that I could kill, I was kind of screwed. And it's kind of funny, like the mana dorks on 1 are worth more points than like all the other ramp spells, so if your deck is weighted lower, and you're playing against people who don't have all the mana dorks, let's say, and they're running all like the ramp spells instead that like Pock would like, you can't interact with those ones too efficiently. And so now suddenly you're in a problem where green is, yeah, exactly, green is just the best at doing nothing. It's really good at doing nothing. Probably better than blue at doing nothing, because there are a lot of instances where mono blue has to wind up being proactive, because something usually slips through the cracks if you're playing mono blue, unless you have like the god tier opener and your opponent can't play magic at all. You just counter everything, like a Brawl perfect curve or something. Blue does need some kind of bounce spell, some interaction in some way. You would, you know, River's Rebuke or something. Mono green could just be like Rampant Growth, Cultivate, Explosive Vegetation, and then you just lost, right? Like, you just lose. It doesn't matter if my opponent's playing 7 mana 7/7s with like no text. If they're playing like 6 in a row and I just run out of removal and sweepers, I'm just going to die. Or if they play anything with a cast trigger, or anything with a seriously threatening enter the battlefield effect, or Craterhoof Behemoth with a board that was just small enough to never want to sweep, but, you know, big enough to kill you with Craterhoof, you're screwed. And that happened a lot. There were a lot of games where they're like a lot of people are playing 5 or 6 high weighted cards at 45 points, and those cards are always being played because they're pretty easy to find, right, with the rest of your deck. Or you just do this draw go thing until you draw one of them and then you win. Because I'm not really running anything, up to that power level, right? And that's just going to happen. Like if your deck is all like really bad cards and you have like 10 extremely high weight value cards and everything else is 0, eventually you're going to draw one of those 10, and if your opponent's doing a draw go control removal thing, you'll be like, all right, I'll just hang out until I find it, and then kill you. So stuff is just really bad. Roxanne is probably unbeatable because I can't just lock them down. Roxanne will continuously incur value. I would need a card like Farewell to even the scale. I don't think Cleansing Nova on its own really does that. It probably has to be Farewell. But Cleansing Nova's, it's in the right direction for sure. There was one game where I got very close to Phyrexian Unlife Solemnity. Obviously didn't end up happening. No surprise there. It was really, really close, but my opponent had... what is it? Scrap Horde? No. The Might. Festering Might? Whatever the 1/2 Might thing is that exiles. You sacrifice it to exile a enchantment or artifact and you gain 2 life or 3 life or whatever. They cast that and I just got Schmieded, which was really unfortunate, but I mean, it's gonna happen. Obviously, it's just going to happen. Boseiju is kind of all over the place. Again, if people are more aware of it, maybe they don't run it because it's not worth the points, but sometimes it is, right? You're not playing it because your opponent has Solemnity in their deck, but it will hit Solemnity anyways. It'll do that. The final parting probably does need Reanimate. I think so at this point. I probably was wrong to start playing without this, but I ended up putting it on later. I just had it just has to make sense to do that. Point weight be damned. The mana was fine. I was running a lot of mana. You could maybe drop some of these and just simply add lands instead. It would lower your weight, and it would also kind of, it's still just playing 1 land a turn guaranteed if you're just dropping all these, and that's kind of fine. You could drop maybe some of these and add card draw, a couple more tutors maybe, and just try to race to a combo that way. Overwhelming Splendor was overwhelmingly the most efficient, like, I win the game, quote-unquote, combo card. Because A, it's a 1-card combo, and B, a lot of things that can answer it kind of get shut down by it, namely a lot of creatures like Lauren, there's a couple others, Reclamation Sage, Haywire Might, that was a card I was thinking about 2 seconds ago. That's what stopped my Phyrexian Unlife. Haywire Might doesn't deal with this. So this does a funny job at protecting itself and your face, right? If you have this in play and your opponent's still swinging with weird things that don't care if you're invincible, right? Like, what is it? Ulamog, Cityscape Leveler, any Planeswalker, right? Any Planeswalker anything that interacts with this is just going to probably hose you. So I don't think this works here. I wanted to try it again, though, because I love doing it to people, but this just... we're not... Even in the lowest of low bracket, like, this is not doing anything. So, yeah, this just can't work. That's unfortunate, so... That's probably a wash. The other one is very expensive. I believe I got 1 turn away from doing it again, but I just couldn't find time to, like, tap 5 twice to get these in play. But with the Sorin tokens, it's pretty easy to just win once both are in play, right? That was not really an issue if I ever got to that point. I just, like, really could not get to that point. I just couldn't get to the point where these were in play together. It was really, really hard to do that. It's kind of like this, except, like, almost twice as expensive. But it does threaten to win the game immediately, which is, pretty decent, I guess. You could run Veto. I know, I think Veto is the Sanguine Bond side of it. So you could do that in this, and that's just 8 mana. then that means Idyllic Tutor is not as useful because it can't find the other piece if you already had one, right? I mean, that's only one card here, but there's a ways to like sort of make that a little bit better. I've lost to that to this combo like 6 times, I think, in the past here, maybe a little bit more than that. So like this one has maybe some viability to it. I don't think this one does though. But again, Overwhelming Splendor is pretty decent. It's probably the only card in the style of me wanting to win with that kind of thing actually works. I don't think Approach the Second Sun is super viable, but if we do stonewall our opponent, right, and with Key to the Archive having a chance at finding a second copy of it, you can win with Approach. It is absolutely more reasonable to try Approach than it is Solemnity Unlife. Another thing is, Solemnity shuts down your counters on the Coffin here, and that's obviously terrible. You don't ever want to shut down the Coffin triggers. But I guess you could keep making 1/1s if you do that, but this will never flip back. It just feels kind of awkward to do that, but you could, I guess. But I don't think that's a good idea, really, in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, this just doesn't work. That's unfortunate. Athreos did get value in one game, but it's a 6-mana card that only gets value once everything that is alive after you've played your 6-mana card, right? If I haven't dealt with what was in play for 6 turns, or 4 or 5 turns, it could just, like, not really matter. But once it's in play and starts getting value, you start to win really quickly against creature-based decks. And that was pretty nice, I guess, in that one game where it, super mattered. But as time goes on, we will see that, like, all kinds of strategies, get more progressively powerful. And you find yourself in a position where you're dealing with an army of creatures is less and less viable because the creature army decks are getting stronger and can run things that have an insane amount of value tied to it that isn't necessarily dying to Cleansing Nova, right? Like, the Great Henge is a good example. If your opponent's just playing a creature deck and they play Great Henge, you're like, alright, well, I'm going to lose because I can't keep sweeping the board forever. You're going to keep drawing a card every time you cast a creature, and your whole deck is a bunch of creatures. So, like, that kind of effect was just really bad to see. And I tried to, like, compete and keep up with it with Phyrexian Arena. I ended up sliding this in here. And that just wasn't good enough, right? It just isn't good enough. Green is really good at drawing cards. It is good at doing nothing and just ramping. It's good at pressuring you from turn 1 with mana dorks that a lot of the time must be answered. It really was just mono green or not mono green, but it was green that was the problem. Every deck that had more than green in it, green was the only color they really just vomited in play spell-wise, and I couldn't even deal with that, let alone whatever blue and whatever else they might have had. It's like you just look in their graveyard and all they cast were green spells. In their 4-color deck, it's like I can't do anything. I'm just sitting here staring at you cast Rampant Growth, and I'm going to die because of it. So it's so rough. But we saw this issue with the black-red decks that I was playing, the newer ones, that Outlaws, that Heist and stuff. It's like, yeah, I can remove your stuff and kill all your stuff, and mono black removal. So yeah, but your opponent doesn't always... They have more going on than just creatures. They just do, right? So your black-white deck has to be a little bit more proactive or have more versions and things to react to that. And a fair amount of that's kind of 45 and up, and then our opponents get stronger, so we have to get stronger then, and then we're back to square one. We're back to just playing like an honest back and forth with both very powerful strategies, which I've been trying to dumb my decks down to play a different bracket of players, right? Just not play tier 1 all the time. But yeah, alright, that's all I got to say. If you like Overwhelming Splendor and you like playing in the low bracket, you could absolutely play this. I would recommend playing this because I like this commander. If you don't like this commander, you could just simply replace it with Athreos, and maybe your deck is even better, who knows? It plays nicer with the removal. but less nice with blocking and triggering your exquisite blood bond combo. But yeah, let me know what you thought about it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.